You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. Brian Kelly and the Football Tigers got some really good news on Thursday. This is a player that we had talked about, but Andre Sam, the transfer defensive back, has picked LSU. Let's run through it a little bit. I'll kind of remind you a little bit of the backstory of Andre Sam, and we'll take a look at LSU and the where this fits for them in the transfer portal and the rankings, etc. So Andre Sam is from Iowa, Louisiana, which is on the I-10 corridor in southwest Louisiana, went to Iowa High School, was a no-star prospect when he came out of Iowa. He signed with McNeese, played there under Lance Guidry, who was the head coach at the time. Lance Guidry left McNeese, went to Marshall. Frank Wilson became the head coach, so Andre Sam was there in 2000, 2001 under Frank Wilson. Well, this past season, 2002, Andre Sam left McNeese as a graduate and went to Marshall to play under Lance Guidry, who was the DC at Marshall. Had a really good season there this year. Had more than 50 tackles, started 12 games, was a really solid player in their secondary as a fifth-year player. Well, Guidry leaves Marshall, goes to be the Tulane defensive coordinator. And Andre Sam transfers to Tulane this offseason. Well, Guidry, before he ever coached at Tulane, accepted the defensive coordinator job at Miami. So Sam, again, jumped in the portal. If you followed all this, he's at a very winding collegiate road. So jumped in the portal, and it was really a two-team race. Was he going to follow Lance Guidry again to Miami, or was he going to stay home and play for the Tigers? And in the end, Andre Sam decided that he would, in fact, stay at home and play for the home state LSU Tigers. So if you're looking at the transfer portal rankings, Colorado is leading the country with, look, Colorado's got 45 transfers. So naturally, because of their volume, they're going to be up at the top. Louisville's got 20 transfers. They're second. UCLA, Auburn, Arkansas, Miami, Florida State, Wisconsin. Then there's LSU at 13. This is in the On3 transfer portal. That's before the Andre Sam addition. So LSU was 10th. And now Sam becoming the 14th transfer portal addition will certainly keep LSU in the top 10. Do they jump Wisconsin to 9? It's, a lot of that is beauty in the eye of the beholder. But LSU a top 10 transfer portal class ranking. Numbers overall, LSU moves up to 80 scholarship players. So they get 5 scholarship spots open. There's an opportunity to add another transfer graduate somewhere along the way. You could do it. You could always hand out a scholarship to a walk-on or something like that. But LSU's numbers have sort of normalized. Remember, we all know the story, but when LSU played that bowl game against Kansas State, they had 39 scholarship players, and there were some injured players and all, and some opt-outs, but you had roughly 50 or so scholarship players on the roster. They were decimated. Brian Kelly had to rebuild the numbers a year ago just to field a competent team, but they were still woefully under the 85 scholarship limit. Now they're getting closer to that, which is great to see. So candidly, just specifically about Andre Sam and the addition of this team, very candidly, Brian Kelly, he's been doing the media circuit, and he's been doing a lot of appearances, and in no uncertain terms has kind of let it be known that they needed help at safety. Coming out of spring, that was apparent. And look, if even when the coaches may talk about the secondary, and I know Matt House, one of the things that he said after spring was, we're going to wait and see how that room comes together. Some guys weren't out there for spring, et cetera, which is true. But ultimately, you came out of spring knowing that you really had 2 guys who have played significant football. Greg Brooks, who's back for his super senior season, and Major Burns, who's also a veteran guy. And the thing about Major Burns, as we all know, is he's spent the majority of his career injured. Spent his freshman season at Georgia, transferred into LSU. In the past several years, he's been hurt. Now he's going into his 3rd year at LSU, his 4th season in college, and he has struggled to stay on the field and to stay healthy. He had a neck injury, obviously, which was very scary that he suffered last year. And then he missed spring, and most recently he's been in a walking boot around LSU's campus. So you're talking about a guy that has been around a while, but has really struggled to stay healthy and stay on the field. So really, Greg Brooks is kind of it as far as your experienced safeties. And the next guy there is Sage Ryan, who you've tried to rotate with Greg Brooks at nickel, and when you did, it just didn't go very well. You hope Sage Ryan takes a big step forward this year and finds a comfort zone wherever that may be in the secondary. Point being, look, you got Matthew Langlois, you got Javian Toviano, who's a freshman they really like. You got Ryan Yates, Kylan Jackson, a couple other freshmen. Point is, you got some young players, you got numbers. You have no proven experience, and certainly not on the back end. So that's why Brian Kelly and his staff have been targeting safeties here in this second portal wave. It's not by coincidence that they went and offered Antonio Carter, the defensive back from Rhode Island. Well, he ultimately picked Notre Dame. It's not a coincidence that they offered Trey Amos, guy who played at ULL, who committed to Bama earlier this week. It's not a coincidence that they went and offered Andre Sam. That's 3, y'all. That's 3 defensive backs, 3 safeties they've offered in this second portal window. They need a safety. They need depth. They need experience on the back end. And I keep saying it, but we talked about Logan Diggs. LSU's playing in the margins here. It's nuanced, right? Because they are a very talented roster. They're preseason top 10. You return basically everybody on your offense. You know, you went and hammered the transfer portal in your defensive front 7 and at cornerback. You're a very talented roster with a lot of talent and depth all over the field. The spots where they're looking right now, it's because you feel like, man, we could really use a spot there. And this is one of those things where the transfer portal benefits LSU, because in a different era, maybe you don't take this player. Because you'd have to take, you know, if you had to use an initial 25 on a transfer player, you might think twice about taking a 1-year guy. But in the transfer portal era, you got scholarship spots available, and there is no hard cap. You can sign as many guys as you want as long as you don't go over 85. Why not? Maybe Andre Sam was always meant to be a guy that played small college football. Maybe his max is Marshall. Or maybe this is a dude who's 6 foot, 180, who's played 5 years of college football, was all conference and the Southland, goes to Marshall, becomes a 12-game starter, had 53 tackles, 5.5 for loss, a pick, 8 passes defended, was really good, was going to play at Tulane, who just won the Cotton Bowl, and that was an opportunity to play at LSU. Maybe it's a guy who just now at this point in his career as a 6th-year player has enough experience that he's going to be able to take that step and be really good. He's Joe Fouché. Or the hope is he's Joe Fouché. Now, Joe Fouché, coming out of high school in New Orleans, was good enough to play in the SEC, and he went to Arkansas. He didn't have an LSU offer, but he went and played at Arkansas, was a 4-year starter. And then because he was such an experienced guy, even though he was undersized, the transition at LSU made a lot of sense for Joe Fouché. So that's what your hope is here with Andre Sam, that he's able to jump in right away and be a starter in the secondary, take Joe Fouché's spot, and on the back end, you'll have Andre Sam and you'll have Major Burns. You can keep Greg Brooks in that nickel spot. You can rotate Sage Ryan. You have some depth. It makes a lot of sense. Look, and if you just compare numbers, Andre Sam played in 12 games. Joe Fouché played in 10 last year. Sam, 53 tackles to 40 for Fouché. 5.5 tackles for loss for Sam, just 1 for Fouché. Each had 1 pick. Fouché's was huge. That was in the Bama game. Andre Sam, 8 passes defended. Fouché, 5 passes defended. So, yeah, man, like, it makes a ton of sense. That's the one spot on your defense where you're thin and inexperienced. You go get a guy that's got a ton of experience, who's from the state of Louisiana, who's a 1-year guy, and might be the missing piece that provides you some rope, a little bit of leeway to develop some of these younger guys throughout the season, so you're not counting on them game 1 against Florida State. Big get for LSU. Andre Sam, safety, commits via the transfer portal. 14th transfer portal edition for LSU in this class. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.